of features.
I think the candidates would join me in assessing the broad range of questions that are being issued to the two of you. My commendations. We'll now move on to dogs. Corey, how would you assess the current state of Carlsbad dog parks?
Dog parks are my favorite. Let's see, we've got Village H, which is this really amazing sort of off-the-cuff area that residents have decided to have as an off-leash dog park. I visited that. I've visited with residents. What they're doing is they're actually building a community around their love of dogs and letting their dogs run free. I think that's a really interesting idea that I've continued to pursue, and I think that's going to be coming to council, hopefully, so that we can look at that. Dogs are allowed on leash at the Agua Hedionda Lagoon, just so you know, on the north side. That's a really lovely place to take your dogs down to the beach. The Poinsettia Park, if anybody was following along with that, there was a really interesting conversation where humans and dogs lovers in a single park worked together to try to find the right spot for a dog park. An interesting conversation around dogs, though, as we're starting to move more toward multi-family, is that we're going to need more of them. And the small dog parks, they tend to increase the amount of aggression that dogs have toward each other. So there's a lot of conversation also about potentially doing some times at the north end of the beach for dogs, and I look forward to having that conversation.
Yeah.
I agree with everything Corey said. What I disagree with is how she cast herself at Sandag. No, she did not go down there and vote. No, she didn't go down there and vote. But this is important because it goes to credibility.
Go for it.
Can I answer it this way? Do I get 30? Do I get my minute?
Have your minute.
So, do I get the clock start over?
Go right ahead, Matt.
So, what's important about this is transparency and trust. And this is at the core, one of the core things that we're talking about in this election. She did go down there, she didn't vote. She just went down there and stood right behind Lorena Gonzalez and spoke on her behalf. And that, the 7,000, that's probably a bad number. I'll bet you the number's closer to 10,000 when the smoke clears. So this isn't a small issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a small issue. And this is what you're looking at in this next election. Somebody that's going to represent you and what you feel is necessary and not spin it.
Matt, we're going to ask you about hold your applause, please. How will Carlsbad move toward zero emission energy sources for electricity? This is Matt. He answered, and so he goes first.
Okay. Right now we're studying it, as is almost every city in this area. We're looking at it. We want to make sure of the numbers before we make the leap. One of the things, just as an observation, when you talk about energy today, it's probably one of the most unstable commodities that's out there. So you can do a lot of business runs on this, but I will take a very cautious look when we look at this to make sure that it is in our best interest that we do get, first of all, 100% green energy, and it's not by buying something that isn't or somebody else's product that's already spoken for. But we're moving that direction. Obviously, right now, that's part of our climate action plan, and the report's due back to us in November.
Same question, Corey.
Excellent. And I did go down to Sandak to call for Gary Gallegos' termination because he wouldn't allow for, he didn't call out the staff that showed the growth forecast for the entire region for Measure A for your sales tax was overshot by $18 million, which is exactly why we don't have the funds to do a lot of the work through Sandag. So I called for his resignation that day when I went down. Zero emission energy. How do we get there? We can get there extremely fast by setting up community choice energy, which we get an investment back within 2 years, rooftop solar, utility scale energy, storage on the Encina power plant, piping it into the desalination plant for the world's first 100% renewable energy desalination, desalinated water, which will keep your water costs and energy costs low over time. Essentially, up in Northern California, the system, just the community choice energy portion of it, is saving ratepayers 7% over what PG&E ratepayers are paying. So we can hit our 100% zero emission, our 100% targets, and save you money in your pocket.
Corey, the McClellan-Palomar Airport Master Plan is slated to go before the County Board of Supervisors next month. As the mayor of Carlsbad, what's your plan to protect the interests of Carlsbad residents, including limits on hours of operation, noise, and traffic mitigation?
So I've been working really hard on this, and I appreciate the question, because I called for a workshop twice before the council said no, and then I held my own workshop to hear from residents, because I believe that since the 1970s, the community and previous councils have worked together to try to mitigate and control the operations on that. And as we were speaking about earlier, my initial push, because of the consolidated airport conversation, right, the one that was brought up earlier about the Regional Airport Authority, to create a joint powers authority with all of the cities in North County in order to ensure that we have some serious control over that airport. That's what I've been advocating for, that's what I was working for, that's what the council finally unanimously voted to advocate for as well up in Sacramento.
Matt, how are you going to protect the interests of Carlsbad's residents?
And I agree with Corey, it was a unanimous vote to work together. My belief, as Corey has stated earlier, we know and understand the issues in and around the airport. We've hired one of the best legal teams that specializes in nothing but airports to try and make sure that the secret documents and all the processing is done absolutely correct. But I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is it's going to be a conversation between us and our supervisors. And I will tell you this, I have a personal relationship built over a lot of years with all the supervisors. And I will advocate for what we feel is best here in Carlsbad. And so I truly believe we're probably not going to get everything we want, but I'll bet you we get a large percentage, including the hours and other things that Corey has mentioned.
Matt, what's your position on improving and increasing public transportation?
Public transportation is really a part of more than just public transportation. It's it's roads, it's bikes, it's walking, and they all work in conjunction. I've been a strong advocate since the day North County Transit and we did the coaster. I can remember the day when we cut the ribbon on that. And I support transit, and I support transit where it works. Right now, statewide, public transportation is down 20% in its ridership. And so what I would suggest to all of us is not look at what's happening at this moment in time, but where are we going to be in 10 years and what's transportation going to look like? This world is changing so quickly. So with autonomous vehicles and a whole host of other things that are happening at this moment in time, we need to step back and we need to give analysis to what that's going to look like. I will say right now, I'm in the middle. I think there's room for transit, roads, biking, and walking. I'm not one that's going to stick my stake in the ground and say transit only.
Corey?
Sure, this concept of stepping back is probably why it's taken us 10 years to get traffic signal synchronization, why we don't have noise mitigation on the airport right now, despite the fact that there are relationships on the Board of Supervisors. It's time for proactive work. Let's go back to AB 805 just for a second. No, not that part. AB 805 actually empowered North County Transit District in a way that hadn't previously been done. It segmented MTS, which is San Diego's version of the public transit, from North County Transit District, because San Diego has different transit needs than North County. So now North County Transit District is empowered to do a number of different things in order to increase transit. One of the things that was talked about, for instance, long-term council goal, right? Trenching. Where are we going to get the funds? Well, guess what? AB 805 gave us a new avenue for funds through North County Transit District, because I was thinking about Carlsbad in this capacity. That's why I supported AB 805. So we need to do better by transit. We need to ensure that we can get folks from the east to the west a lot faster. And there's some really unique things we can do now that North County Transit District has been empowered to do what it needs to do for transit in North County.
Corey, I think you're up, right? What are your plans for land management plan? Your plan